I bet you've had a piece that you've loved the sound of and really want to play on the guitar, and then you pick up your guitar just to do the searching, trying to find what notes they're playing. Then you throw it aside, you give up on it, or you go trying to search for a tab. So that is exactly what today's video is about, ear training, and how instead develop your ear to be a genuine musician instead of randomly searching around the neck. Now, the big myth around ear training is that you're either born with a good ear for music or you are not. And one of the big bugbears of mine is people who go, well, I just don't really have a musical ear. This is absolute rubbish. That's a bit like wanting to go to the gym and saying, well, I'm starting off, but I'm not really buff and lean, so maybe I'm just not a natural at it. That's not the way it works. It's not the progression. If you put the time into it, if you train with it, that is what comes over time. It is exactly the same with ear training. If you put the time into it, and if you know what to do to train effectively, then you can absolutely have a refined and trained ear for music. And I'm going to show you the exact method that I've used with hundreds of guitar students that's got them from feeling completely lost and having no clue what it is that they're listening to having a refined ear that allows them to listen to something, play it on the guitar, and feel like a much higher level musician. So listen up, because here we go. Now we're going to do this through intervals, and what an interval is on a basic level is the distance between your low note and a high note between two separate notes. So if we take A at the bottom, E at the top, we've got A, B, C, D, E. That, when you count all of them, A is number 1, that's the big mistake people make. A is 1, E becomes number 5. So this interval will be a fifth. For those who are more pedantic on the music theory, it would be a perfect fifth because it's the same in both the major and minor key. We're going to simplify these intervals by doing it just in the major key and taking the scale degree as a number without adding the major, minor, diminished, perfect, any of the other words on top of it. Let's keep it nice and simple to start. As your ear is going to get magically better throughout this video, this is going to be your initial test to see where your ear is to start with. We want to compare this to how it feels at the end of the video when we redo the same test. So I'm going to play some intervals for you, and I want you to try and guess what the interval is, what the distance between the notes is. There were 3 intervals for you, and could you recognize exactly what the intervals were? Was it a 6th, a 2nd, 3rd, 5th? I don't know. Well, this is where we're going to redo this test at the end of the video, and with the right method in place, you're going to see how different it is listening to intervals when you've got an idea of how you can recognize them. The psychology behind this method is using mnemonics, and mnemonics are the connection of several different elements in a web that all link into the same memory. What we're going to do for this in particular is use very famous pieces of music, very famous songs that are absolutely drilled into our memory, and relate that to the interval so that we can link the two and be able to recognize them. The first interval we're going to do is a fifth. Now, it doesn't matter where you do the fifth on the neck, if you do it A to E, or if you do it down further as B to F sharp, these are still going to be 5 notes apart, which is what we're after. Now, the song that I personally use to recognize the interval of a fifth is Star Wars, because it starts with those same 2 notes. The Star Wars theme goes like this. That is a theme we're going to be using. Now, listen to the first 2 notes. Now, when you hear those 2 notes, I want you to now imagine the rest of the song. Now, when you listen to an interval, you want to be able to match the notes that you've just heard with what would be the progression further on in the song. If it sounds like the beginning of Star Wars, it is going to be a fifth. Now, another song you can use for this, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, it also works. You'll just have 2 of each note. It's exactly the same concept. We're taking a piece of music that is absolutely drilled into our mind, and we're using that as our mnemonic reference point to be able to tell what the interval is. The next interval we're going to do is a fourth, and the song I use for this is We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Listen to the interval first. That's your fourth, 4 notes apart in the major scale. Now listen to it with the beginning of the song. That is going to be our mnemonic trigger for a fourth. With just these 2 intervals, 5th and a 4th, let's see if you can recognize the sound difference between them already. We're doing this by using the song it's linked to. So 5th is Star Wars, 4th is Christmas. Have a listen to this interval and see if you can start to tell which one I'm playing. Let's have a listen to that again. Which interval is this? Is that Star Wars or is it Merry Christmas? I'll play the rest of the song so you can hear. It is Star Wars. We're going to do one more interval before we redo that test we did at the beginning. And this interval is now going to be a third. Because we're in the major key, this is going to be a major third. The song I use as the mnemonic trigger for this interval is Oh When the Saints. Very famous song, everyone knows it. Of course, if one of these songs you want to swap out for one that works better for you, absolutely do so. So now, let's throw that one into the mix. If you have a third, you want to be able to imagine the rest of that scale going up as you would hear in Oh When the Saints. Let's do all 3 of these intervals now and see how many of them you can guess right. I'll do them a few times each, different orders, see if you can guess them. Once more. Next interval. Once more. If you want, you can rewind, listen to those again, see if you can really guess from these different songs they're related to what those intervals were. Because, spoiler alert, I'm about to give you the answers. So our first interval, that was from the Christmas song. Then we went on to this interval here. That was the third, which is Oh When the Saints. And then we finished on the interval that was lower down, which is Star Wars or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So the question is, how did it feel that time when you had a mnemonic trigger of a song to recognize what the interval is compared to the first time we went through the intervals, which, by the way, they were the same intervals, just different order. First time we went through them when you were completely blind. The next steps for you would be to write down a list of each of the intervals you want to recognize and put a song next to it that for you is an amazing trigger for that song. For me, Star Wars works the best for a 5th, but for some people, they might not have watched the movie, so it's not going to work too well. My advice is make sure it is a song that is absolutely drilled into your memory, because if you take most songs that you like, you might not have that interval absolutely hammered into the point where, when you listen to it, you know from note number 1 exactly what it is. Then as an exercise, there are apps, there are websites where it'll play you a random interval, you can guess what it is, then it gives you the answer. So go ahead, use a bunch of those to get your head around it. When you're starting to make some progress, step number 2 is going to be to play a note on the guitar, and then try and sing the higher note that you're looking for in the interval. So if I'm looking for my 5th and I've played this note, da, dum, and you can sing the note and hear if you are accurate on the pitch. What all of this is going to lead back to is when you listen to a note, you're going to know exactly how far away from the note you're currently on that next note is. So while playing a melody, if you're thinking of a melody in your head and you just want to improvise it on the guitar, or you're listening to a track, you can hear what they're doing and you want to play it on your guitar, it's going to create this bridge, this path between what you're listening to and being able to play it on the guitar. So if you found anything useful in this method, like, follow, subscribe, all of the good stuff, because it really helps this channel get out to more people who are looking to level up and improve their guitar playing. And if you have a specific song for an interval that you think works really well, drop it in the comments, share it with other people. I'm sure there'll be tons of people who can draw ideas from what you're doing as well. If also you want to learn how to tune your guitar like a pro, check out this video where we talk about tuning your guitar by ear. I'll see you in there.